Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Roundtable with Vanessa Hammond. My guests this week are ErinMcIntyre, real estate agent; Shannon McMannis, founder of Ladies Who Lead and Cornerstone Captial Financial Group; Shelley Gaudet, owner of Gaudet Fitness Solutions; Jessica Powless, special events and public education coordinator; and of course me, your host, Vanessa Hammond, the mortgage broker. So, let's get to it. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming. This is a great space. We're lucky to be at the Brantford Golf and Country Club. I know that there's a few events actually that are coming up in the next little while, and we have one of our guests here, Jessica Powless from Vita. And there is a large event coming from Vita. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I would absolutely love to tell you about it. I am the special events and public education coordinator at Vita. So I actually handle all of the special events that come up during the day, special events that come up during the year. So all of the fundraising events like our golf tournament, which actually takes place as well at the Brantford Golf and Country Club, and our International Women's Day fundraiser, as well as our Break the Silence fundraiser in November, which is a relatively new event. It actually was born out of the I hate to say that it was born out of the pandemic, but it came as a result because we had to completely readjust our fundraising strategies and whatnot with not being able to get together. So our Break the Silence campaign is actually the brainchild of our wonderful executive director, Natasha, and it's about going silent for 24 hours on November 24th. We break our silence on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which is November 25th. It is a peer-to-peer fundraiser, and people get so excited and behind it, and it actually becomes a very emotional event. There's a lot of events taking place during that month as well, like our Wrapped in Courage campaign, which is a province-wide campaign through OAITH, which is the Ontario Association for Interval and Transitional Housing, and that's a big fundraiser for not only for us, but for the organization as a whole across the province. So I handle all of that. I also do outreach into the community, specifically with donors as well, or donors and sponsors. I hate to say this stat, especially when we have 5 wonderful ladies sitting around this table right now, but 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will experience physical or sexual violence. And at one point, we may have to listen to someone and support somebody who is disclosing to you. And we want to be able to give those tools to people in order to hear that information and to be able to support them in a very healthy, very supportive way. So Nova Vita has our biggest fundraiser of the year coming up on March 8th. And it's at the Brantford Golf and Country Club. They are absolutely fantastic to work events with. They just take such good care of us and take such good care of our guests. And it's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and I'm so happy to actually say that our presenting sponsors are here with us right now. So Erin and Vanessa, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for not only coming on board and supporting the event so generously, but just like the enthusiasm that you're bringing to the event is just so wonderful. And the last 2 years, we've actually had to have an in-person hiatus, obviously due to the world around us. And this is our first return to in-person. And I cannot tell you the joy and delight that it's been to be planning this event, and just the outpouring of support that we've received from our community partners, our committee members, which Shannon, of course, is a part of as well. So just everyone is, I think, so excited to return to that in-person format, and we're just absolutely beyond excited. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and as I said, and we rely on that to fund our needs for throughout the year. We're a small local organization. We rely on our local businesses, our local community partners to make this event successful, to make us successful. And when we are able to do that, we are able to provide our essential shelter and support services to those in our communities. So Brantford and Brant County. So I'm absolutely excited. And I wanted to also let everyone know the event is now sold out.
Woo-hoo.
Yes.
Can you tell them how quickly you sold out?
Yes, I think it was within 2 weeks. We had our committee meeting. I said, hey guys, like the tickets are on sale. We've already sold like 41. I'll let you know. And I had to send out an email before the next committee meeting to tell everyone that it had sold out. I am now dealing with people who want to come to the event, and I have to be like, oh no, I'm so sorry. It's an excellent problem to have.
Yeah.
But there's so many other ways too that people can get involved with the event. Of course, I would love to have everybody there, but we've just the outpouring of support that we've received just makes my heart just fill with joy. But they can also, we do have room for additional sponsors. We also do, I'm actively recruiting for prize donors right now. Prizes bring us, are one of the more exciting components of the event. And
My
actually,
favorite.
I was about to say, I'm like, we actually have someone here who won a large prize in years past. So you can speak to that very, very well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I went and saw Bon Jovi in concert and stayed a couple nights in Toronto, and it was a live auction, so I didn't really win it, but I paid a good price for it, so it felt like winning to me.
You still won it. In my mind, silent auction, when I bid on things and I win them, I'm like, I won that. I won that. You beat out everybody else. So, but yeah, it's just, prizes are where we're really looking for support right now. And I love supporting businesses and organizations that support us. And I love to give back as generously as they give to me. So, shouting them out on social media and in the pre-show presentation and in the night of, and doing Insta stories when I'm doing prize pickups and making sure to mention. I love doing all of that stuff because like I said, I love promoting the people who support us. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't do these events without the support of our local community businesses. So I really appreciate all of your involvement. And in years past, I know you've been a part of our on our attendee list and everything. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it as well.
Who's the speaker at International Women's Day?
The speaker this year, I'm actually very, very excited about. I met her last week via Zoom, and she was just this ball of light. Her name is Brandy Lifeso, and she is the founder and CEO of Evio Beauty. And she actually started her company at 21 with like $15 in a domestic violence shelter. Her company has supports shelters, 27 shelters, has partnerships with them across Canada. And she provides beauty products as well as monetary funding for many of them. And actually right now there is a movie being developed about her life. Wow. So we actually got to hear a little bit about that on the call. It's very, very exciting. She is just truly an inspiration, and I'm so excited for everyone to be able to hear her story and really learn more about her as an individual. She's just very inspiring. So yeah, I'm very excited to have her.
That's incredible to have somebody who's can relate so closely to the charity that we're looking to support.
What was the capacity?
180.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And it sold out, like I said, like that. Couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't believe it.
And so if there are sponsorships still available, I know the top sponsorships are taken.
Presenting meal sponsorships are taken, yes. There are some opportunities for Hope sponsors, which is at the $1,000 level. And we do have opportunity as well for Help sponsors, which are at the $500 level. But I believe we are almost sold out of those as well. Right. There was a lot of emails that came in this morning that I was trying to get through before I got here today. So there are a few opportunities left, but definitely we're looking for prize donors, and I give as much love to our prize donors as much to our sponsors. So any opportunity is a great opportunity to be involved with the event. So
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you guys. You guys have made my whole year. I promise you. I absolutely love having you guys on board. So.
Well, one thing I did want to ask, just because it's great that we've got these events, but this is support that needs to be ongoing from the community. It's not just the big sellout events. Of course they're going to help, but what is a good way for somebody who wanted to get involved outside of the events?
Oh, absolutely. That's an excellent question. There's actually a few ways to get involved outside of the event. So we actually have this amazing graphic where it talks about how you can get involved. So you participate, you can host your own events. So third-party events, I offer a ton of support for those things. So say for instance, you did a dress casual day at your office, or you did, portion of proceeds of sales, or, you know, you did like a marathon and you raise money, like for us, those types of things are hosting an event. You can also volunteer. Our volunteer program has been completely, I don't want to use the word decimated, but I will, due to COVID, just because there was a constant, you know, you can be on site, you can't be on site. We're shut down, and as a shelter, we actually are, you know, we have different rules than other places. We're more akin to like a hospital setting than just normal business. So it's very difficult for us throughout the pandemic to keep our volunteers engaged, and oftentimes too, like, you know, they have the time, and then they might find other opportunities and they move on, and we completely understand that. So we're all about rebuilding our volunteer program, which I did to you. I told you that you're going to be on my committee.
You did, and then you told a whole room of people.
Yeah. Actually, I believe Shannon told the entire room of people that I did that to you. So
I would never do that.
In any case, it was, even if I wasn't sure, I was sure in that moment that it had to happen. So,
well, that's honestly the best way to do it. We have many ways to get involved, not only in our donations room, but also at Closet Couture Boutique, which is our social enterprise. And 100% of the proceeds at that boutique directly support Nova Vita. So when you go to that boutique and you find, you know, an amazing, actually I wish I was wearing my winter jacket right now, because I got that at Closet Couture Boutique for $20 and it's beautiful.
Nice.
And when you go there, that $20 that you spent on that jacket directly supports our essential shelter services. So that's at 415 Fairview Drive, and they're open Tuesday to Friday, 10 till 5, Saturday 10 till 3. It's an excellent way that you can support by shopping. Like, that's just a wonderful way to support. Donations, you can donate physical or donate monetarily as well. A sponsor in terms of annual partnership. So it's not just event sponsorship, but an annual partnership. You are our sponsor year round, and you're represented at all of our events, and you get a ton of extra bonuses for doing that as well. It's very helpful to be able to rely on those specific sponsors throughout the year, not just for specific events. So we are rebuilding that as well, just to get that back up. We were significantly impacted by the pandemic, so it's really nice to be able to start rebuilding these relationships, and I think we're coming back stronger and better than ever.
Did you find there was even greater need because of the pandemic?
Absolutely. We actually were going through what our industry was calling a shadow pandemic. So while we were seeing our numbers drop in the shelter, it was not because of lack of need. It wasn't like all of a sudden everything just became good. It was because people lacked the ability to reach out for those supports. So they lacked the ability to go to work and have a break, or be able to connect with Nova Vita safely. So that's actually one of the things that came out of that as well, as we really looked at how people were able to connect to Nova Vita. So one of the things that we did was we actually developed a text and chat service. We had a text service before, but it wasn't very well utilized, very well marketed, and we actually integrated the same number that we use for our 24-hour helpline, or like our phone line, into a chat line as well. So sometimes, especially in the pandemic, when you're locked in a house with only your partner, it's hard to find that opportunity to make a phone call and ask for help. Whereas it might be easier and safer to text. It might be easier and safer to chat online. So these are options that we that came out of the pandemic and are actually allowing us to be more accessible and reach more people who need it. In fact, last year we had 4,800 connections made through our 24-hour crisis and support line. So that is phone, text, and chat. And unfortunately, Brantford has the distinction of being number 1 in all of Ontario for police reported incidents of domestic violence, and we're number 4 in all of Canada. Those numbers may have adjusted. That was on the last census, of course, but those are numbers that always stick very, very close to my heart, especially since, you know, I work and live in Brantford. I love Brantford, and you ladies love Brantford and our community. And sometimes it really is hard when I say I work for Nova Vita, and then there's people in our own community that don't know what we are. I find that domestic violence is something that is still, to this day in 2023, something that gets brushed under the rug and something that's not as talked about. So that's what we are, and part of my job too in terms of public education. Like we want to make sure to give women a voice. That's why I appreciate being able to come here and chat with you guys about it too. Like you guys are my strongest and biggest advocates, and you guys are the ones who go out there and continue on that messaging. So I really appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you here. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I'm Shelley Gaudet, and as you know, I own Gaudet Fitness Solutions. Very proud owner for the last 7 years. And my fitness studio is actually just around the corner now in the fitness center. So it's like 2 minutes from here. And I do in-person and online classes for women and personal training, as well I do nutrition coaching.
You were in Paris before, right?
Yes.
So how long have you been just down the road?
Since September. So
Whoa.
during the pandemic, before the pandemic, I had a studio downtown Paris. And then during the pandemic, when we were shut down a million different times, I renovated my garage, and then I ran out of my garage for over a year.
Wow.
And then I decided for this year, I was not going to be in a cold garage for 1 more year.
Fair.
It was great while it lasted. It was really nice to be able to have it out of my house and be able to just walk to the garage, be able to go in and pet my puppy in between. But it's really nice to be at an actual studio now. I've really liked it, and I formed a good partnership with Tamara Lynch, who owns a fitness center, and we collaborate, and it's been great.
You did an awful lot online as well, right, Shelley? During the pandemic, you were able to pivot that business really well?
I make it look really easy now, but it wasn't easy in the beginning. They say you learn by failing. Mm-hmm. Well, I failed a lot, so I definitely learned a lot. Like I was always someone who I didn't even really know how to work the remote on the TV before at home, because I don't really watch TV. And then now I'm the tech person, like in the studio, at home. Like I know how to do everything. Anything that like goes down now, I know how to fix it. It's very weird, but
perfect. I just live around the corner.
I'm not open
Now I know who to
for
call.
a new business. Yeah.
Is that going to be your new business
no,
venture?
No, it is not going to be my new business venture. But my reach has been able to grow, because I used to be able to only service women in the Paris and Brantford and Burford area. And now I've got women in BC, women in Ottawa, like women all over, because they can do the online. So that's really cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was just about to ask if you're still doing the online.
I am. There's a lot of gyms that have just shut that down and just been in person. And I have some classes that are in person only.
Yeah.
But there's still a need for it, because during the pandemic, all these women, they built a nice little home gym, and they kind of got used to working out from home. They still have me live because they have to come on, so they still have the accountability at 6 a.m. or 6:45 a.m.
Absolutely.
They still have, like myself, one of the instructors looking at them and saying, "Are you lifting heavier weights?" They still have us to text.
I can attest to this.
Yes. So these 60 clients I've never actually met in person, but I forget that because I have a relationship with them online.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you're going to continue to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also record a class every day, which I never did before the pandemic. So at least one class a day is recorded. So I have like 30 women that they just pay for a video membership. So they just go into the content library and they do the video, and then they're encouraged in their Facebook group to say, "Hey Shelley, I hate you today because that workout sucked." And that's like my love language. Like I like when people want to swear at me and they hate it. Like they say, "I really love your workout." I think, maybe it needs to be like harder next time.
I love that you're even talking about that, and it's like Valentine's Day, and you're like, "This is my love language." I love it when people tell me that they hate me.
That's right, I do. Yeah, I really do. It's what they pay me for.
Yeah.
So what does Adam always say? When you
Adam
go
says
home
it
and
to me
complain?
all the time. Stop complaining. You actually pay to be hurt by Shelley. Like, this
stop
is
whining.
true. This is true. I think it's really important, like, to have that physical fitness in order for it to be in other parts of your life. Like, I know just getting out that aggression sometimes in the morning, when you've had a stressful day the day before and you kind of get that out of the way in the morning, and then you just kind of continue on with your day, and things just don't seem as bad until, like, I don't know, 3, 4, and then you start over again.
Well, that's why.
Well, that's when you had the glass of wine.
That's why we say now the gym is about sanity, not vanity. Not that vanity isn't a part of it, but for a lot of women, it is for their mental health.
It's a release.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a release. Yeah.
So you're a 6 a.m.er?
Oh no, not.
No.
Ew.
I'm in the 9 a.m. class. Anybody who wants to join?
I'm like, I feel like I could make up an excuse at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I've heard it all. Today someone said they're gonna be late. They said Cupid was to blame. I'm like, oh, Cupid.
I actually sit on the wellness committee at Nova Vita. I was voluntold. So you
know how it feels.
Yeah, and I do. But actually, this is like one of the most wonderful committees to sit on. Our wellness committee is about working with our staff, of course, to make sure that they are well, that they are getting the most out of their job, and we're providing the most to them to make sure that they stay well. Like in this industry, in this climate, it's very difficult, and our staff have had so much put on them. So anything that I can do to help them is so beneficial. But also I work with the not the community development. She's the counseling manager, and she is working to provide more services in shelter again, because again, we're allowed to have volunteers again. So we've had a couple people reach out wanting to provide, massage services or yoga services, anything that they can do, even if it's just over Pilates. We have Pilates, which is wonderful. These are things that we love to be able to offer, especially within the shelter. It can be very difficult when someone is in the shelter for them to go out. That's why, online classes worked really well during the pandemic, because the shelter is someplace where they can be safe, and sometimes it's not always safe for them to be out in the community. So being able to offer these services and bring people and experts into the shelter is such a wonderful opportunity for us. So yes, we are always looking for more ways to incorporate not only our community partners, but also wellness into what we're doing at the shelter.
I love that you're doing something for the employees too, right? Looking after their wellness, because I always say if you don't fill up your cup, what do you have to give to other people? And I'm sure their jobs are extremely draining, what they listen to every day.
Taking that on as well.
You take it on, right? Yeah.
It's actually, whenever they say something, they're like, oh, well, you have I could never do your job. And I'm like, I could never do your job. I'm like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to go into the community and, hug the babies and shake the hands in order to get the money to support the wonderful initiatives, the wonderful programs, the wonderful projects that you are working on. So it's just and actually our next wellness event is tomorrow for the staff. We're doing a coffee hour. We actually had a wonderful, wonderful donor. He reaches out at least once a quarter to fund a specific need that we have, but he also provided us with a Tim Hortons gift card. And he's like, this is for the staff. I want them to have, they do so much, I want them to have this. So we actually turn that into an opportunity to host a coffee hour for the staff when they come in the morning. So we're going to have treats and coffee and everything. Again, it's just a way for us to feel connected. Within our own staff, we weren't able to be really connected over the pandemic, as I know we all felt. So it's a really great opportunity for us to come together and talk and connect and just be able to just have a good time while we're at work.
That's great. Yeah. I wish more employers would do that.
I'm so blessed to work at Nova Vita. I know I know people are like, oh yeah, I love going to work. I actually do love going to work. I believe in what we're doing for the community, and I have the pleasure of being able to work with incredible people, sponsors, donors who share that same vision. So every day that I get to go to work is a great day in my books.
Well, you're making such a difference in people's lives. It's one way or another, you're brightening somebody's day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon, for coming in today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So I know you through Ladies Who Lead, but you do a lot for the community as well, and bring larger events to Brantford. But if you could maybe tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. I own Cornerstone Capital Financial Group. It's a financial planning company here in Brantford. We're located on Brant Ave. Been in the business for about 20, so a while. Cornerstone started in September of 2000. So we have 5 people on staff, and we really believe in supporting our community and supporting people who support our community, really. So it's really about building each other up, I think, is really our motto, and our educating and empowering and enriching people.
Yeah.
So, and as you said, you know, Ladies Who Lead. So Ladies Who Lead is here at the Country Club. We meet once a month, and last year we brought Arlene Dickinson, which I think everybody in this room was involved with. Actually, Nova Vita was one of our charities of choice last year, and this year it's Haley Wickenheiser on May 23rd. So this is kind of exploded this year. I'm kind of afraid because the more we reach out to people, the more people say yes. And yeah, it's we're going to have a lot of events downtown. So the Arnold Anderson Sport Fund is our charity of choice this year. Arnold Anderson Sport Fund is an organization that was formed. Arnold Anderson used to be a sportscaster here in Brantford, and I believe he actually did the first interview with Wayne Gretzky. So after his passing, they formed a organization that enabled individuals who could not afford sport to actually pay for their membership, etc., in hockey or tennis or baseball or karate or swimming, whatever it may be. So those individuals who cannot afford those things can apply to the Arnold Anderson Sport Fund. They have a board of directors who approves the applications, and they work with all the sporting organizations within Brantford to ensure that individuals who may not be able to afford that initiation fee or the membership fee can then go ahead and have sport. Because we all know that through sport builds leadership, builds confidence, etc. And especially for individuals who may not be able to afford those things, those are very important things to bring to our community.
Absolutely.
We also have 4 of the hockey associations involved. So Brantford Minor Hockey, Paris Minor Hockey, Brantford Girls Hockey, and the Brantford Community Hockey League.
Okay.
So they're all involved as well. So basically when you go to get a ticket on Sanderson Center, so it's sandersoncentre.ca that you get all your tickets from, you have to choose one of the charities actually to support. So a portion of those ticket sales will go to one of those sport organizations.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah. And then the Arnold Anderson is going to have some events at Harmony Square that day. So across the road from Sanderson Center, obviously, is Harmony Square. And they have collaborated with the Ball Hockey International. And Ball Hockey International is going to be providing some rinks, and they're going to have some skills competitions and some 3-on-3s, and Rogers Communications has just come on as a large media sponsor. So we'll have some interesting things happening with Rogers, and the radio station, CKPC, etc., is going to be downtown, and they're going to be telecasting, that day for their programming. So yeah, it's becoming a bigger event, which is scary some days.
I know, that's great.
Exciting.
Yeah,
it sounds amazing.
So,
you know, Jess, how those go, right?
Oh yeah, I know how they go.
And our tickets on sale now.
Tickets
I'm sure they're going to be sold out. And I better not
tickets
hold
just
off on
went
that.
on sale 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. We're about 50% sold right now with sponsors.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Shelley.
so it's sponsorship has been fantastic. We still have a couple of sponsors to figure out, but sponsorship has been fantastic. And I think that what happens is the sponsors that have supported Nova Vita have also supported us. Like Vanessa is one of our gold sponsors for the event, so which is fantastic. And yeah, it's a pretty big event.
And I can definitely speak to how much Cornerstone supports the local community. Like Shannon and Cornerstone have been just phenomenal sponsors of Nova Vita and supporters of Nova Vita. I actually always tell her that she's always like, Jess, you're doing such a great job. And I'm like, you're just making me look good. I'm like, you're giving me all the credit, and it's all you. So I appreciate your support more than anything. So I'm so happy that this event is going so well for you. I knew it was. Like, as soon as you brought in Arlene Dickinson, I think everyone was just completely on board. It was, we had over 700 people at the Sanderson Center just coming out of a pandemic when we had to cancel her twice. Once was
in the fall, then in
Yeah.
March, and then it was May, and we still were able to bring out 700 people to the Sanderson Center when that was just a time when the doors were opening.
Yeah.
So we figure with Hayley Wickenheiser, who's an amazing speaker. I saw her speak in Woodstock, and then basically had the opportunity to go up to her after the event and say, hey, my name's Shannon McMannis, and I run this group called Ladies Who Lead, and we're wondering if you'd like to be a speaker. And she goes, absolutely. So
Perfect.
that's kind of how it all evolved. And she's been very, very generous. We will be unveiling some things with regards to some sports memorabilia from her, and et cetera, that she's agreed to sign, et cetera. So there's going to be a lot going on that day and throughout the campaign leading up to it. So and as Jess said, one of the great things that we get to do, right, is to really highlight our sponsors and things like that, because it's about the community, and it's about Brantford. And I think that's something that Jess has really, really done a fantastic job of. Is it's not just about one event or raising money for Nova Vita. It's about that collaboration. And Nova Vita is a fantastic charity, and they do deserve our support. I sit on the board there. I don't know personally what the staff had gone through with regards to the pandemic, but when we have our board meetings, etc., you can see through the executive director, who Natasha Dobler is a fantastic executive director, and I don't know how the staff did it. Like wearing masks, and for our front line, wearing masks all the time, and having to deal with all of the things that comes out of a pandemic with, getting COVID, having to deal with it, having to isolate families, etc. So if you can imagine being a mom who has just, gone away from their house, their home, and now they're in a room with 2 or 3 kids during the pandemic, that's a tough spot.
Well, I'm going to tell you how we got through it. It's because we had strong leadership, like with our managers, with Natasha especially, but also with our board. Like, you guys helped guide us in every step that we needed, and just really stepped up. So I appreciate it. I know it sounds like we're just like loving on each other, and that's,
well, it is Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it is Valentine's Day.
Day.
But honestly, it was like the leadership and being that feeling of support throughout that whole process. And like, we're still going through it. Like, we're like, my manager always likes to say, like, we're done with the pandemic, but the pandemic is not done with us, because there's still things that get affected in what we do all the time. So.
Well, and we go right back, I know Shelley had mentioned this before, like, you failed a lot, right? But that failing teaches us what to do next, and to rise above things and go, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that again. Okay, let's do some things differently. And that's how we all become successful, right? No, I don't think anybody has become successful
do, right?
without falling on their face, really.
Yeah.
Right?
No. I mean, I'm not going to give you examples, but there's certainly been some times, throughout my career as well. And just to go back to Ladies Who Lead, I think a large reason why a lot of people are supporting Nova Vita and supporting the Hayley Wickenheiser event is that you guys are really good at telling the story and why we should be supporting certain charities, right? So I think it's more like, if you don't know, you don't know. But when we've got people out there like Jessica and like Shannon who aren't afraid to, put it out there, like, we need your help, it's a lot easier to go, okay, like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And with the event that's coming up, because you're saying it's like exploding, and what are the next steps? So are you looking for volunteers right now? Is that part of?
Yeah, volunteers would be fantastic. We've learned from last year and again, right? So there were, we've really segmented and said, Arnold Anderson, you need to do everything at Harmony Square.
Okay.
We'll support you, right? And we'll bring sponsors, etc., to make that happen. But that is kind of your thing to do, your gig. All of the Arnold Anderson board is on board, and they have they have volunteers as well. But absolutely both organizations can use volunteers, just like I think anything else in this city that we are in. This city really runs on volunteerism.
And what's the easiest way to contact you if they wanted to sign up for that?
If they want to email us at info@ladieswholead.ca, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
And we'll get back in touch with them and figure out a role for them.
All right. So pretty much the moral of the story between the two events, we need volunteers. A lot of them.
Yeah, lots of them. Yeah.
This year, we're actually looking at supporting our transitional housing program. So Nova Vita is so much more than just a bed. It's just more than a place where they can find emergency shelter. We have so many other programs and services that provide wraparound support for the entire family. So children's programs, family programs, as well as counseling services. You don't actually need to stay in the shelter in order to utilize our services, and they're free. And we are, one of the things I'm most proud of course, too, is our men's program. Many people don't realize that we have a men's program, and we're one of the only shelters that do, or I shouldn't say only, there are many others that do, but this is a prominent part of our programming in which we try to eliminate violence from a relationship altogether. So we're working with men who have used violence or are at risk of using violence in their relationship, and we're working to prevent domestic violence altogether. So that to me really speaks to our mission of developing healthy relationships, healthy families, and healthy communities. And when you're servicing the entire family and not just providing emergency shelter, you are really eradicating that problem in our community. So
I was going to say, what if there's the domestic violence against the man?
That's part of that is part of that.
So,
so that is
it happens.
and
sure
actually
so,
I'm so glad that you said that, because I actually shouldn't have referred to it as our men's program, which is what we often do. So on me, it's actually our Challenge to Change program. And that is for those who are at risk. So not just men, those who are at risk of using violence or those who have used violence in their relationship. So we do have women in that program as well.
Male or female.
Yeah, it's the PAR program, our Partner Assault Response program.
And I think within the community, Nova Vita has become more and more of a household name. So because of what Nova Vita has done and education, the different programs, it's not, as you say, it's more than a bed. That stat that you said about, we're number 4 in Canada, number 1 in Ontario. That may also be related back to now individuals are more aware and more able and willing to come forward and present this as, yes, I have an issue, and I need some help. So that's a great area that, yes, we're in Brantford and we're a smaller community, and Nova Vita has a fantastic, I guess,
reputation.
varying programs for every member of the family, from prevention to when somebody is in domestic violence to help heal.
That's
it's looking it's looking at the stats in a positive way.
Yes.
That, yes, we're number 1 in Ontario, but maybe because women and men are more apt to speak out about domestic violence here because they know there's a service available.
That is exactly how my executive director Natasha views those stats as well. It's not something to be proud of, but it is in a way too, because that means that more people are seeking help, more people are calling. They're not just staying in that situation. So it actually is something that you can turn around and be like, no, now we're reaching out, now we're seeking support, now we're able to reach more people and help more families. So yeah, definitely, that is definitely a great way to look at that.
And there's a lot of things that are associated with that domestic violence, right? Shame, people often blame themselves, etc. So through all of this education, I think our community has become more aware of those things, and now that's why people are able to, it's not so much of a stigma any longer. We can reach out and get that help that we deserve and need, not just for ourselves, but for our entire family.
Right, because you might not be able to even text a friend, but you can text Nova Vita, which is nice, right? It's...
Well, and that's part of what we talk about in the Blossom training that I mentioned as well, because a lot of times people say those things, they say, and they don't mean to, but they say, you know, why don't you just leave? Why do you continue to endure this? And those aren't questions that we necessarily need to be asking in that situation, especially when you understand the cycle of violence that can happen and the very real barriers to leaving for many people leaving an abusive relationship. So that blossom really helps to understand why asking these questions or maybe a better way to approach. And honestly, if you can take, I always say in my training, I'm like, if you can take away one acronym, it's just listen. Just listen. Oftentimes we think that we need to listen to respond as opposed to just listening to understand. So that's something that I really get across in that training for sure.
And I think Brantford, and I've said this before, like Brantford's a bigger city, but it's a smaller knit community.
Yes.
And, you know, and I think that everybody's sort of there to help each other. And you may know somebody that all of a sudden it's like, no, I want to set you up with that person. And I think that that's really what Brantford's known for. And I do believe that that's why numbers probably sound higher, because we're all very together in it, if that makes any sense.
No, we're a big little city.
Yes,
We are. Absolutely.
Yes, true. And I came from Toronto, so it's a very different community.
Yes.
Very different.
Yeah.
But I like it.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. Yeah. And I think that saying that, it's the big little city. So we find that businesses and social enterprises, etc., succeed. They thrive when everyone works together.
Absolutely.
Right? When we can collaborate, when we can support one another, we're much more able to thrive as a community rather than compete against one another.
It's very true. We even have, Facebook groups. Like, who knows? We're going to talk about Facebook. But we have Facebook groups that are like mommy groups. Or, you know, I know that there's dad groups out there too. But the mommy groups, and when you're reading them, a lot of the time people will actually feel safe. And they may come in as a group member. You may not be able to see who that person is. But immediately they're saying, I need help. And what do you think I should do in this situation? And so many people put in, go to Nova Vita. You need to talk to Nova Vita. You can text them, you can call them. And just that support of people who don't even know each other. It's immediately, we care. And it's the check-in.
One of the biggest barriers that we're seeing right now for residents leaving the shelter is that there is no affordable housing in Brantford. And that's actually one of the things that we're talking about at our International Women's Day event, our transitional housing support program, Maria Haus. And we actually have a new initiative with the city at Lucy Marco Place. I don't want to get ahead of myself because that will be discussed at the event by much, much smarter people than me. But we're actually seeing the average stay at the shelter is 55 days. And to me, that's not an emergency shelter anymore. That emergency is a week, a couple days. And Brantford, unfortunately, is becoming such a thriving community, but we're pricing ourselves out of affordable housing for many of our own residents or people that are in need. So that's what we're seeing in Brantford.
Well, one way that I could kind of give back to Nova Vita without, being a sponsor or, being on the committee is as a mortgage broker, maybe even just coming in and doing, a seminar on credit and, repayment and how those things can greatly affect your ability to lend money in the future. Oftentimes something that we don't talk about is how there's still a lot of relationships where men have been either the breadwinner and in some cases not even the breadwinner, but handle the finances because that's the way that it's always been done. And I can't tell you how many times, after a marital breakdown, I've had women who are like, I don't know what to do. Like, can I even afford this? Do these numbers even make sense? And really the baseline to start, on that credit path or that lending path is rebuilding your credit, but knowing how to do that quickly and efficiently and making sure that it gets you to the next step and keep progressing forward. So, I would be happy to come in and do a seminar even.
And that would be absolutely phenomenal because oftentimes people think of abuse, especially when they know that I work at Nova Vita, they think of the physical violence. But they don't understand that so much of violence that happens is financial violence. Withholding paychecks, withholding access to your finances, your holdings, all of that is financial violence. And most people don't realize that actually happens. And exactly what you just spoke to, once that's gone, all of a sudden you're left with no knowledge, no understanding, and you're kind of you're left lost. And again, that goes back to one of the barriers to leaving a relationship is having no access to your financial what's the word I'm
situation.
looking for? Situation. Thank you. Yes.
I think that's part of the control for them too, right?
Absolutely.
Like you keep the other party in the dark, and that prevents them from wanting to leave because they're afraid to leave because they don't even know.
They don't know.
Right? They don't know.
They don't know where to
They
start.
need help.
But that would be a wonderful opportunity. We can definitely discuss that more. That I think that our shelter manager intern would love that.
Well, and I think too, especially when you're hearing, the sky is falling, the market is crazy, the market's up, the market's down, and like people don't know how to decipher that, and especially if they're already having trouble understanding the basics of financial need. That's a very, very scary thing to kind of come up against. So this is a bit of a different conversation, but Erin and I did actually kind of talk about this a little bit the last time that we met together. Thanks for coming back. And it was just that it oftentimes when I talk to people, whether it's through a marital breakdown or someone in that situation, or even if it's, a single mom who wants to try and obtain that home ownership on their own for their family, that it's actually a little bit closer than what most people think. But it's just making sure that you're talking to the right people and people that you trust and people that know what they're talking about, and having those people in your corner. Shannon, there it is.
Is it? Yeah, there we go. Isn't that what we just talked about? Yeah.
Right? And it's huge because if you can't, money is a very emotional topic, right?
And a scary topic. I think people are scared of
money.
money.
I think people are scared of it because we should be learning about it a lot sooner than the first time you do your taxes.
Yep.
So oftentimes, like even going through the whole financial fitness of going through that process with a mortgage, a lot of people don't understand the impact of like not paying that credit card for 15 days after it's due. And it's like, but that greatly impacts you because now you're coming and you're asking for hundreds of thousands, and they're going, but we gave you a $2,000 credit card and you didn't pay it till 15 days after it's due. So really understanding the whole pie, the 5 C's of credit, and that is going back to the basics. And I think that is really somewhere that I can help.
No, absolutely. I completely agree.
I was going to say, how does someone get to be your client? Like, do you just take anybody on, or is there certain criteria?
Yeah, so there's not really a certain criteria. I work with clients of all different shapes and sizes from 2 provinces. That's right. I'm licensed in Ontario and Nova Scotia, so I really do have a very broad span of different clientele. And so sometimes even just having that initial conversation, it may not lead to a mortgage right away, but even going through the exercise of, okay, let's do a pre-approval. Let's see where you're at. How much would you have for a savings for a down payment, knowing that the minimum is 5%? What does that credit look like to be able to use the 5% as opposed to having to put 20% down, right? So, I mean, just an initial conversation and going through that process, I'd be open to do that with anyone because it doesn't take all that much time on my part, but it can greatly impact someone to know this is where I'm at and this is where I need to be to obtain the goal that I'm after.
And all that is part of education, right? And
Huge.
And we talked about this at the last ladies who lead meeting.
Yeah.
And that you have to have people, you need to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And when we talk about finances, right, 90% of women are going to be in charge of their finances, their own finances at some point in time in their life. And that's generally because of death or divorce. The average widow is 56 in Canada.
That is crazy.
Right? So you couple that with the fact that of our divorce rate, etc., we need to have those individuals.
How come you're not giving that stat?
We need to surround ourselves with good people, good mortgage brokers, good real estate agents, good financial advisors, good lawyers, right? Good bankers. So it's all about, and that goes, back to just, again, collaborating as a community and supporting one another.
Right.
Well,
so
and
someone to hold your hand.
Right.
And I think now more than ever, you need to have those people, especially in the housing market.
Oh.
I chose to be a mortgage broker for a reason. I knew that it was a disservice to my clients to be able to only offer them a few products,
And we've had this conversation.
Right. Like, how are you actually giving the best possible advice, knowing all of the products and programs, not all, but knowing enough of the products and programs for different lenders, for different client situations, right? So, I mean, banks have their place, monolines have their place, B lending, alternative, private. I mean, I could go on, and I will keep doing this too. But now more than ever. And that's why I think that having a mortgage broker, as opposed to, limiting yourself to only few options, is very, very important. Just as much as I think that it's very important to have a very good real estate agent. I mean, some of these decisions that you make, they don't seem that impactful at the time, but literally, sometimes you could have saved yourself tens of thousands of dollars. And in real estate, I mean, in some cases, we're talking hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
Well,
right?
You look at that, right, Erin? There's a lot of real estate agents that are in the business, and our market has been crazy over the last 2 years. We have a little bit of calming right now, but still, I think you need someone who is experienced, knows about how offers operate, and are strategic.
Exactly. And good at negotiating.
Exactly. So when you look at that can save you.
Yeah.
Well, and not only just negotiating, but how many people have you known in the pandemic who have purchased a house without a home inspection that has gone totally sideways?
Too many?
Well, I can tell you how many I've had to try and finance.
Too many.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it's knowing those things, having that knowledge behind you that can help clients, right, to succeed.
Yeah. So one of the biggest opportunities right now, for my clients that I already have, I'm making sure that they're where they need to be. But for those that are coming up for renewal right now, or if you've received your mortgage statement, because you would have received your annual mortgage statement in the month of January, if you don't understand what's going on with the mortgage, or you just feel like you need a second opinion, or you want to talk about it, this is the time. Do not just sign on the dotted line. I know it seems easy, but you should treat your renewal just like you treated your first mortgage, where, you took the time, you talked to a professional, you looked at your options. Don't just sign the dotted line, because I'm telling you, in differences of tens of thousands of dollars. And in most cases, some of the renewals that are being offered, I'm doing a lot of short terms right now, because
interest rates should go down.
They should go down, but it's a good option. Then we can look at it in 3 years, reevaluate, see where we are. Maybe we're still at the same rates. I hope not. But if we are, then, you have that opportunity to renegotiate, or to take a second look at that. But by just signing that dotted line, my goodness, like, you could really be putting yourself in a whole realm of hurt.
And it's just
financially,
easy, right? And it's like,
it's
if you don't
if you don't really understand
it, you're kind of like procrastinating, like, I'll just sign, because it's like,
Well, and that's
I know
what
I
people
need
don't
to
want to
do
deal
that.
with.
I
It's
know,
it's
yeah.
the unknown.
It's the unknown.
But then
Yeah.
when
And
you, like,
that's
really think
that is
about
part of the education. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
our tagline's educate, empower, enrich. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what it's about.
Yes.
And you're right 100% with regards to the mortgage statement or the mortgage renewal, because the prices or the rate that institution will give you on a renewal and the rate that when you go to talk to your mortgage broker, even if it's, you know,
Yep.
you have done that mortgage at the very start, they're going to get that renewal
Yep.
and they may look at that and go, okay, that's what I have to do. They need to call you
Yep.
because there's a lot of negotiation that can happen from that rate that's posted.
But your circumstances could have changed.
Correct.
We went through a pandemic. Everybody's situation changed, right? So, if there was any loss in the family, if there's been a job change, if kids are going off to school, I could go on and on about the different reasons that your financial situation could have changed. But yeah, just signing that dotted line, you're taking away opportunity for either A, a lower payment, or B, driving down that amortization or that life of the mortgage where you could really be more impactful of putting those additional funds back into the savings and keep planning for those that
It's
future,
all about the plan.
the future goal. I
Yeah.
love it. It's about the plan. It's about the plan.
So someone's at Nova Vita and they are trying to buy a house in the crazy market that is now. I know when I bought a house a lot of years ago, we spent $102,000 and we were like, oh my
Felt like a
God.
lot back
Like,
then.
Yeah.
we had $5,000 down. We're like, somebody lent us $97,000. And now you have someone who's single
Mhm.
wanting to buy a home. Most homes now, starting homes are in the 500-600 range. Like, what do you recommend?
One product that doesn't get talked about often enough is a cashback program. So the rates are a little bit higher. So if you don't quite have that full 5%, you can always take that little bit of a higher rate as long as, of course, you qualify, and you get a portion or a percentage of the purchase price back to kind of cover those closing costs and those like land transfer tax if the property is over $400,000. So there are ways to do it, but that's, again, I would start with the pre-approval, talking to a mortgage broker, who knows products and programs that are out there that would be best suited
Well,
for
I
that
think
situation.
sometimes it's working on a plan. You might not be able to afford that home, but to know that there's a plan in place and to really sort of say, okay, like it's really important that you start to pay off some of the credit card debt, or it's really important that you don't go and buy that new car that you want to buy because that's going to affect it. So what are the things that are more important in that person's life at that time, and sort of creating that plan. Because sometimes it might be 2 years out from when somebody's going to buy. The market, we know, can change so quickly.
Yeah.
But I think if we're all sort of working on that plan and working together, and we're sort of keeping up with what's going on in the market, but also keeping up with what their finances are, what type of job are they, working towards? Are they going to stay in that type of career and build their way up? Those are all really important things.
That's the key, is to seek good financial advice and having those people in your corner and surrounding yourself with good people so that you can achieve those goals.
Yeah.
So, and I think, Jess, that's a key as well with individuals who are seek relief, etc. at the shelter, is to show them how they can propel themselves forward. Right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially like with everything that you guys just talked about. Like, we're not supposed to know how to do it all. I'm not supposed to know every little thing about real estate. That is why you go to an expert. That is why you rely on those people in your corner. Financial, through mortgages, fitness. Like, you can't get me to do fitness unless someone's telling me to do it.
She can tell you.
She tries. Exactly.
Shelley will crack that whip.
That's right. I was like,
But like, that's exactly why they come to us as well. Like, no one is an expert on dealing with a domestic violence situation, and nor should they be. That is what we're for, and that's what we were there to help guide them through, what you're there to help guide them through. So I just think that we're all here to be the experts, and people need to understand and know that we're here to support them.
And it's okay to ask for help. too.
Yes,
Always.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think that's the key, is there is no shame in asking for help. And I think our society
Mhm.
is sometimes judges individuals on that premise of, if you're asking for help, you're weak.
Right.
Actually, if you're asking for help, you are strong,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you understand that you need that help to move yourself in a different direction.
Cheers.
Okay. Thank you.
That was lovely.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. As always, everyone's contact information is in the description below. See you around.